This is Rubbish Talk, fortnightly insights and expert voices from the world of waste. Welcome to episode 67 of Rubbish Talk with myself, Alistair Meldrum.
And myself, Jane Bond.
And today we have the pleasure of having Charlotte Davies. Charlotte Davies is a senior consultant, resource efficiency and circularity for a company called Beyondly. She is also the Chartered Institute of Waste Management Early Careers President. So more about Charlotte later on. But first of all, Jane, what's the news? What's the gossip?
Yeah, well, I've got, pretty significant actually. The NES, Energy from Waste Facility, up in Aberdeen has temporarily closed, which handles, it takes the tonnage of waste from Aberdeen City, Aberdeenshire and Moray, and apparently they've been having loads of technical problems. And the operator, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Indivar, I think it is. Indivar
has actually walked away now, and so I don't know where that leaves everything with the biodegradable waste ban coming in. What do you think?
So this is. Am I right in thinking this is the energy to waste plant's built by a company that owns it, and then they contract out the operation of the facilities to Indivar will be the operating company,
Well, it
rather
looks
than the
like
owner.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
then,
operational company, yes.
yeah, and then the three councils will have the contract with that waste energy to take the waste. So that's going to be a big change. That's another.
It's 100,000 tonnes of waste they deal with annually.
There's our landfill capacity gap increased even further from, we were debating that in previous episodes of how much lack of landfill space we've got at the turn of the year when the landfill ban comes in. So there's another 100,000 to put on top of that. But hopefully they'll get themselves sorted out. Obviously there's a bit of a contractual dispute going on at the moment that needs to be resolved. So
yeah, there seems to be quite a few technical problems. So, you can't run an energy from waste facility with so many technical problems, really.
Yeah.
And it's got to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And more news for the Highlands. IFA have opened up 150,000 tonne. They've called it a zero to landfill Scottish waste business. They're going to handle the sites permitted in Inverness to handle 150,000 tonnes, general business waste and dry mixed recycle it every year. When you actually read through the description, though, most of that has actually been shipped south to Glasgow. So it's not exactly being processed in the Highlands. It's making a long journey down. And this is back to, we need facilities in the Highlands as we need facilities in Aberdeen and so on. We shouldn't be shipping waste all over the country as much as we maybe do.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, and I've got another one here. This is a waste company find. This is down in England, in Nottinghamshire. And what got me is they pleaded guilty at Worcester Magistrates Court for failing to comply with the demand for information about the materials they accepted. So basically, the Environment Agency have been requesting the information so that they conduct an audit of the site, so they can sort out whether or not they're taking the right material and all that kind of stuff. But what gets me is, I thought it was quite funny, that they were totally fined £52,405 and 5p. So somebody is very, very precise, particularly on that 5p.
The £5 is obviously the important bit, Jane.
I know, absolutely. And also ordered to pay a victim surcharge of £2,000. Interesting.
There must be a fee of charges. I would think there must be a fee of charges that are multiplied up or something.
And that 5p makes all the difference.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but it does go to show that it's not just about materials deposited in the wrong place, but it's also about information and getting the right information from the Environment Agency to be able to manage and regulate the site as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was another one.
And the last one we've got, which by the time this episode goes out, is slightly dated, but the one that was fascinating me was the bonfires in Northern Ireland to celebrate. I think they're lit on the 11th for the 12th of July marching season. But these bonfires are ridiculous. Some of the size of them, the number, they'll built, if you've not seen the pictures, they're built with pallets, and there must be thousands and thousands of pallets. Where on earth they acquire all the pallets from, I have no idea. Some of them are blue pallets. Well, if you look at the bonfires, they're actually blue, red, and wood coloured, which suits the colours required. But the blue ones are owned by a company called CHEP, and you don't actually own a CHEP pallet. What you do is you rent a CHEP pallet, and you're talking £15-20 a pallet. So what they're building these things, thousands and thousands pallets, thousands and thousands, probably tens of thousands pounds of cost in there, or value these pallets. And for some reason, we're letting people set these huge fires. So the one in Belfast got a huge amount of attention because the waste ground it was on actually had quite a lot of asbestos on it. And it was waste ground. There was piles of asbestos in a corner. There were suspicions there was asbestos near the bonfire. It was right beside the electrical substation that powered the two main hospitals in Belfast. And you see initially that you see these huge cranes lifting up pallets for 3 or 4 guys perched on top of these bonfires. No harnesses, no safety equipment, and it just
it just is bonkers, isn't it? I mean, it just looks. You see the picture of it, and it's enormous. It is really. You see it against the buildings next to it, and you think, crikey, that's about 3 times the size of some of these buildings and houses and stuff. And imagine when that goes off. Can you imagine the?
Well, you just think the air pollution, the smoke that it generates, the fact that potentially it doesn't, if it's windy, it potentially burns too hard on one side and then it'll collapse and it'll land in, a surrounding area. We've got a huge issue at the moment with wildlife fires. I noticed at the same time this was all going on, Northern Ireland was in a high risk, fire zone. We've already had major fires in Scotland, in various parts of Scotland, taking out big chunks of Scotland recently. So it just seems, but I know there's a tradition, I know there's a thing, but it just seems totally.
Yeah, it's taken a tradition too far, isn't it? To be fair.
So from a sustainability point of view, there looked like there were lots of perfectly good pallets being destroyed for no real good reason. But if anybody's not seen the pictures, we'll share one of the links to some of the things. But have a look.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at, and just.
Northern Ireland for use in these bonfires.
Really?
Yeah, well, you look at the.
I mean, where they must have come somewhere.
Well, if you look at it's not just Belfast that's got these bonfires that size. There's various ones in Northern Ireland, so the pallets have come from someplace.
And it's illegal deposit of waste. I mean, should it need
Did you have a license there?
A license
or an exemption?
For it? Or an exemption? Can you imagine putting that through? Yeah, and then we want to burn it. Right. Okay. So how does that fit in with the incinerator directive and the all that kind of stuff?
I'm not sure it's in compliance with any regulations, but I know when it was heating up, but I think Belfast City Council voted to have it taken down, but then the Police Service Northern Ireland said they couldn't support the contractors doing the work because it would have just caused riots and so on. And then the Environment Department got involved because of asbestos, and I think it just became a whole mess.
Bit of a hornet's nest.
Maybe they're needing to do what they did with the marching season and try and get some sort of semblance of order well before the next 12th of July.
Yes. Well,
so you're allowed your bonfires, guys, but maybe keep it a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
But they have become
the 5th.
They have become a bit of a Facebook or a social media sensation, where these guys are, climbing outside of these bonfires and working up there. They work hard to create these bonfires, but at the end of the day,
they're a work of art.
Yeah. So there we go. And I think that's us for news. And I think lastly, or not lastly, but before we close, we've got some big exciting news about Rubbish Talk, Jane. We alluded to it last episode, but we have a plan.
We did. We have our plan changes. We've had 67 episodes so far. We've had at least 67 guests. So, all are pretty amazing. We've had 3 producers over that time, and obviously me is the best. That goes without saying. We've had 3 hosts, and if you don't know who the other host was, that's another another test for you. You can start listening to the earlier episodes.
Is that meaning you can't remember Heather's surname,
Of
Jane?
course I can remember Heather's name. I was just trying to, have a little teaser there for people to have a look. Yeah, you and Heather started it all.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember where we got to. What episode did we get up to?
Well, I was episode 12.
You started there. We go.
Episode 12, me, episode 12, if you want to listen.
All right, was that one you were on?
And that was the handover.
That's how we did it. That seems a long. That's years ago, Jane. That'll be 2 years ago now.
Well, at least 2 years ago,
That's 2 years ago. Yep.
So our focus, Alistair, your focus right at the very beginning, what was it to do?
Well, I think right at the very, if we go back to very, 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 very start, it was to try and a bit of frustration for me that the waste industry is really complex, it's confusing to people, a lot of people don't understand it, and I think we're really bad, as a sector, I think we're really bad at chatting through some of the problems we have in the sector and trying to educate, the wider public. So that was the focus. I think we've done that with our guests, but I think sometimes probably our guests are knowledgeable of the waste sector, we're knowledgeable of the waste sector. I think maybe we are. We're a bit, well, sometimes we are. Maybe we don't come across it. But I think sometimes we maybe get a bit too complex and we probably assume that people know things that they maybe don't do. So we have had feedback from people saying, listen to the podcast, but I didn't have a clue who you're talking about. And that was no reflection on me and you, Jane. I think it was just their sort of level of understanding of the sector. So the big news... We're not hanging up the microphones yet. We're gonna hang in for a bit longer. There is a lot of effort and time put into between myself and Jane and Mia. So what we've decided to do is we are going to go weekly. So we'll continue. So not fortnightly, we're going to go weekly. But by going weekly, we are also going to go shorter. So we're going to try and keep the episode to 30 or 40 minutes max. Whether we manage that or not, we will try our best, but there's no guarantees. Jane and I will still talk rubbish as always.
Yeah, we will be still talking rubbish. And next week we're going to try and go back to basics. So we're going to try and have that discussion. And obviously me and Alistair having the chit chat about what is waste? Why, there's lots of these terminologies that go around the industry and wider. And it's just a question of, so in the first place, the worst thing about waste is that it's produced, obviously. So how do we go about not producing it in the first place? So that's our first topic for next week. How do we minimize our waste produced in the first place? So if anybody's wants to give us more suggestions of topics, and that would be very, very welcome. And hopefully you can have a listen to it and see whether or not it's, we are taking it back to basics, or are we still being too complicated? Hopefully it won't put the more wasty people off, because you can pick up on what we've missed.
No, I was going to say the intention is we still intend to do guests, but probably a bit less regularly, probably once every 3 or 4 weeks, and maybe these guests will tie in with the particular topic we're going to talk about. We are also going to introduce a couple of new bits to give a wee bit of structure to the episode. But really, the test for myself and Jane is, if young Mia finds it remotely interesting and understands it, then we think we've passed the test. So Mia's going to be the gatekeeper. As always, happy to get feedback from anybody get any ideas, any suggestions. There's a number of people regularly drop an email and just mention things about the podcast, which is really nice to hear, to hear people listening. Sometimes me and Jane feel we're just talking away in the screen and there's nobody actually out there. So by all means, feed some information. If there's a topic you're thinking, I have no clue about anything about that, quite happy to add that to the list and maybe have a chat about it. Maybe myself and Jane don't know anything about it either, but I'm sure we could find somebody that does know something about it and hopefully try and raise that awareness about the challenges that we face in the waste sector.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going for education, interest. You never know. We might have a quiz at the end of some of them. I'm just throwing that out there.
There you go. How about you go, Jane? Get working. Five questions for me. Yes, no answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds a plan.
No, I'm in an hour in.
That sounds a plan. So there we go. So that's the plan. So that's the next. So this will be the last. No, not the last. This will be the last sort of interview one we do, maybe for a few weeks. So Mia was very keen to finish in a round number, but we're going to finish in number 67, whether that's anyway relevant or not. We have set up a TikTok account, Rubbish Talk Podcast, where we'll be trying to push a bit more of that promotion to just try and widen that net, particularly to probably the younger generation who maybe use TikTok a bit more than I'm still in training. So if you see the rubbish posts I've been putting up, it's because I'm still in training about how to use TikTok properly. But Mia's very helpful in guiding me. So apart from that, so this week I said Charlotte Davies. Charlotte is new to the sector and relatively young for the sector. So another great example of a young person getting fully involved in the waste sector. And as I said at the start, she is senior consultant for a company called Beyondly, and she's also the CIWM Early Careers President. And she talks quite a lot about that role and the importance of that role and so on through the interview. So over to myself, Jane and Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte. It's lovely to meet you. How are you doing?
Hi Jane, hi Alistair. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm good, thank you this morning.
Good. Welcome to Rubbish Talk. So it's nice to get on another female. We've had a few males, so it's nice to sort of give a bit of a balance, and a young person as well.
A young member of the industry as well, Jane.
Exactly.
So that's what we need more of.
We need more young members
rather than us old codgers.
Speak for yourself. I'm older than you. Whoops.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to ask you a load of questions, Charlotte. So we're going to start with, tell us who you currently work for and a bit about your organisation. And we know you've got 2 hats. So, both of those hats, whatever size or shape they are, would be quite good to hear about.
Yeah, so my day job, I work for Beyondly, which is an environmental consultancy and compliance scheme based in North Yorkshire. So we do sort of 360 environmental services, mainly packaging, and batteries compliance. So that's where the waste comes in. But then we also have a growing consultancy team, which do a range of carbon consultancy, as well as resource efficiency and circular consultancy, which is where I kind of sit. So yeah, my day job varies. Some days I'm doing LCAs, some days I'm doing waste audits and composition analysis. Some days I'm doing impact projects. It really just depends what comes through the door. And I find that it tends to be anything that no one else knows where it sits. It comes to my team, which is always fun. So yeah, that's great. And Beyondly as well is a great company to work for. I've really enjoyed it. I've been here 4 years now. So after I graduated, I joined and have just sort of grown through the company really. So yeah, that's the day job. But my other hat is I'm the Early Careers President for the CIWM, the Chartered Institute of Waste Management. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sure most people are familiar with what the CIWM is, but we kind of set professional standards within the waste and resources sector. We offer lots of training, networking, mentoring, regular updates in terms of webinars, podcasts, news and things like that. And for me, it's been amazing. Ironically, I wasn't actually a member of CIWM when I applied for the Early Careers President role, which is always a bit of a laughing point, but had been meaning to become a member, but I saw that opportunity and thought, right, that's my chance to tick off both bucket lists, membership and the Early Careers President role, and then I was really surprised to get it. So yeah, it's a really cool role, and I've been in it at the moment I think 9 months, and I've got a year to go because I'm the first one. It's been a bit of a longer period of presidency than usual just to get us started, and I've got a wonderful team of 11 ambassadors that sit underneath me that are working as well to do the same stuff. So yeah, it's a really cool role.
That is quite cool. So when you say early years, that's early careers side of it, so people just coming into the industry, so it doesn't matter whether they're young or whether they're old.
Exactly.
Is it mainly the younger people that you're looking?
Well, so I think the definition is anyone with less than 10 years experience in the industry, so completely irrespective of age. We have a whole range of ages in the group. We've got people that have recently graduated, people that are PhD researchers, people from within local authorities, just a whole range. So yeah, it's a really cool group. And I think that's what we really want to bring home, is that it's not just for young people as such, it's for people that have recently joined the industry.
We've been talking quite a lot about how it's important that we bring, the industry is seen as a interesting, sexy industry and all that sort of stuff. And that's probably, part of your role to sort of portray that to outside the industry, I suppose, and get people to come and join.
100%, yeah.
So what kind of backgrounds do people have coming in? Are they all sorts of backgrounds?
Yeah, so I guess it could be anyone that's transitioned from another sector that's bringing different skills in. We're seeing that more and more with the growing need for green skills in the circular economy. So transitions from maybe technicians, engineers, especially with AI as well, things like that coming in, we're needing different skill sets. But then I guess from apprenticeships, university degrees, a whole range of people coming in. So yeah, I think I'm super passionate about making it an industry of choice, because at the moment I think people hear waste and they think everybody's just working out on the rounds. We're all bin men, yeah. And then when I tell my friends, no, I'm not actually out on the rounds. I mean, I'm sure that would be, and we do have many members that are, but it's a whole range of across the industry. And I think as well, I always think like it's also outside of that environmental sector. We have marketers, there's a whole range of jobs that we need within the sector as well. Just so yeah, definitely passionate about making it a sector of choice.
Yeah, because there is so many opportunities, isn't there? So many opportunities in different ways of looking at it. So I'm going back to your day job. So your day job is down in North Yorkshire, but you're based in Glasgow. Are you doing work around Scotland, or do you just like Glasgow?
It's a bit of a long story. So my partner works up in Glasgow for a startup. So we were doing Leeds to Glasgow for, I think it was 3.5 years, and I've drawn the short straw. Not the short straw because I'm loving Glasgow, but I can work from home, so I've relocated. But I'm down in the office a couple of times a month. We've got some members and businesses that are based up in Scotland, so it's quite nice to have someone that is up there.
There must be quite a bit more work now with EPR. The extended producer responsibility coming along, and what that means. Is that keeping you quite busy in terms of consultancy work on that?
Definitely. So going from the once a year submissions with the producer responsibility, where everyone was getting quite used to those 6 tables that the data was submitted in, to now extended producer responsibility, which has put huge burdens on producers to collect more data, increase costs. So the packaging team here at Beyondly has sort of doubled in size really over the last 1.5 years. And for my side of things, I definitely support in that in terms of packaging recyclability. We do lots of portfolio reviews of packaging where we can look for cost savings, especially under the new recyclability assessment methodology, and really helping businesses to move from maybe those amber and red packaging outputs towards green outputs. So yeah, it's I really enjoy it, and that's how I got into the job originally, is that I started as a packaging account manager, and from that I kind of was like, oh right, okay, looking at plastic types, and then I was looking at recycling processes, and I got really interested in it all, and that's kind of how I moved into the consultancy side. So packaging's really at the heart of my journey into the sector.
Can I ask you a question, Anne? You were talking about the green, amber and red there. So what is an example of a green packaging? Would that be like paper or?
Yeah, so paper,
or...
there's essentially 5 areas that packaging item has to flow through for RAM, and it starts with collection, sorting. Gosh, this is really going to put my
Sorry, Charlotte.
Charlotte.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
So collection, sorting, the actual recycling process.
So I suppose the ones that are easier are the greens, and then when you get to mixed packaging and that kind of thing, is that sort of in the red side of it?
Yeah, so laminates, non-polyolefin plastics, packaging we've really been trying to move away from for the last couple of years, I think, that are now appearing there. And I think on the whole, we're finding that a lot of our members may have already made those transitions. We've seen large retailers put requirements up for their customers in terms of moving away from specific packaging types like PVC windows. That's now we see PET forms of those. We've seen tethered caps as well, because anything under the 40 millimeter diameter threshold. Yeah, that's a bit of a iffy one, isn't it, tethered caps? But definitely for RAM that helps, because the small component is attached to the other component.
I was going to say, Charlotte, I'm old enough, and I think Jane will be old enough to remember ring pulls on cans of juice. In the past, it was you pulled the whole thing off, and they used to be littered every place.
Yes.
And they decided not, they changed to the new style, which has stayed within the can. And that was
that was quite good. That's
a
fine.
simple change that did a lot for littering. And I think the tether and caps, to a certain extent, the same sort of principle, but I know it annoys people.
Yeah, you're drinking and it's landing on your nose.
I think you do get used to it, though. I think it's just one of these things. It's just
I think my friends are all like, "Oh, what's why
who's
is
done
this
this?
here? Yeah, who's done this? And it's hitting you in the face." And then I explain why it's there, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, that kind of makes a bit more sense."
Makes sense, but I still don't like it.
I actually find it quite amusing that it's a European Union rule, and then it's been imported to the UK because the producers can't be bothered doing anything different for Britain, and we're getting it even though we're out with the EU, which I find quite amusing. I was telling Jane about this morning. I was talking to Paul Cook from Weekly Shop down in London. So he's putting together quite a nice model in terms of a weekly grocery shop basically, and supplying and all reusable stuff. I think he's got something going there in terms of what he's doing. So he's supplying stuff in sort of glass jars, and he takes them back once they're empty. He takes them back with his deliveries, and he thinks he can save a lot of money by buying in bulk and just taking out that whole packaging bit. So interesting concept.
I think, at the moment, it currently doesn't allow for reusable packaging. The RAM assessment is very much just focused on recyclability, but we do know long term, after these first 3 years of it they will start considering other environmental indicators. So like you say, I think reuse is definitely something that we need to start thinking about as well. And it's, for producers, it's quite a hard shift in mindset, and it's not always the easiest thing to take to a senior management board to say, we've got to invest this much to, long term savings. So
So it's moved on. What struck me talking to him was the whole argument's moved on, because so many people do their shopping by delivery now. So what's the stop? In the past that wasn't a thing. Now it is a thing. So there's no reason at all why that your waste material can't go back to your the original producer, and you can't use reusable stuff. So I think it's going to change. I think it's going to change.
Can I just come back to the acronym thing, Alistair? RAM. What's RAM?
So it's the recyclability assessment methodology.
Right.
Not a mail sheet.
If you use too many acronyms, you get pulled up for it, Charlotte, and you've got to explain them just in case. Half the time, because myself and Jane don't know what they are. I had a document on Monday there, and I opened this document, and somebody had given this thing, what was it, 3 initials, then /2 initials, and I did not have a Scooby what it was. And I had to message somebody else that was on the document and say, what the hell is this? And it was almost a totally made up thing. It was just like, just call it what it is,
Yeah.
But anyway, digressing. Before I go on to my next question, I've got to ask, your degree at university, where did you go and what degree?
I did geography at Leeds.
There you go, Jane, you're not geography. Who's geography, Jane?
I did geology.
Geology, there you go. I knew it started with a G.
Yeah, I did geology in Manchester, so not that far away.
Yeah.
Right, out of interest, why did you choose geography? Because I used to love geography at school, and I was tempted to go down that route, and then
it's a good question. I had a really good teacher at school that I really liked, so I think I just really enjoyed the subject at school, and then I knew you got lots of trips with it, which probably wasn't the best
Geology
reason.
was like that too. It was brilliant.
But yeah, no. In all seriousness, I guess I was quite interested in because I did physical geography as well, so I was quite interested, glaciers, rivers, mountains. But I've ended up in a bit of a human world, which I don't mind. I quite enjoy it. It's more relatable, I think, because it impacts everyone every day, doesn't it? Waste.
Do you think it's helped you in what you're doing now? Do you think it was a good way into the sector? Or?
Well, there's definitely skills that I've learned in terms of critical analysis that I use in my everyday, report writing, things like that I have definitely used. But I suppose the actual technical knowledge, maybe not so much. Maybe more to link it to climate change. But we didn't really go much.
I think that's often quite common with people's degrees, that they don't actually use their degree for either a long time or quite rarely.
It is interesting because I did geology and I did hydrogeology as well. And when you look at it, sometimes things come up like soils or whatever, and you think, wow, I actually know how to do that. I actually remember that from uni, or my first job as well was doing a lot of soils analysis and stuff. But yeah.
And which uni did you say?
It was the University of Leeds, hence the Leeds connection. Yeah.
There you go. So I suppose my next question was what brought you into the world of waste management? But probably to start with, you probably thought you weren't in waste management. You thought you were doing environmental consultancy.
Yeah, so I guess I think like most people, I didn't really even know the resource and waste sector existed.
Yeah.
Waste gets collected every week, doesn't it, from your house? It magically disappears. We don't really hear that much about it in the news, I don't think. I wasn't that aware of where it went.
It's the magical bin fairy,
It is.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to...
And then I guess I was quite passionate about the environment anyway. I love the outdoors and things like that. So as my degree progressed and every lecture was finishing, every lecture block was finishing with climate change. So I started to become a bit more interested, do a bit of research, and I guess my own habits. I would try and shop at refill stores when I was a student and had time to go to refill stores. Yeah. I started buying all my clothes secondhand, really making an effort to get trains instead of flights and things like that. And then I had a friend that had worked at Beyondly, and she said, there's loads of geography graduates there. So I thought, right, okay, that sounds a bit of me. So, and the company ethos as well really, really attracted me in. And then before I knew it, somehow I'm going through the bins and getting passionate about recycling streams. And my housemates were having we had a little section in our kitchen where I'd collect vapes from the street, and then we'd have pill packets, flexibles that I'd start taking away. So it became a bit of an obsession, and then that's just how I've come to where I am, really, and been quite lucky that Beyondly's grown so much since I joined, and there's been the opportunity to move into the consultancy side and look at resources and waste and products and packaging. So yeah, I think that's my entry.
Sounds like a good entry to me. And any favourite? Obviously, you've not been in the sector for long. Any favourite roles or projects you've been involved in that stick out?
I've done in the last year and a half. I've become more, involved with the delivery of LCAs here at Beyondly. So I kind of head up the service. So LCAs, the acronym, life cycle assessments, which basically involves measuring the impact of a product or packaging or material throughout its whole life cycle, all the way from raw material through to either gate at the point of factory where it leaves, or the use phase and then end of life. So I've done quite a few of those now, which are a little bit of a labour of love. And I've done one recently for a wood product, which was a massive supply chain with multiple stakeholders, a forestry site in Scotland, someone was managing that forestry site, then, the logs were going off to the timber yard, and so that was a whole level of gathering data that just opened up the world a bit.
It can really gather arms and legs, can't it? It can grow and grow, and the more you look at it, the more you're thinking, goodness, where do we actually stop with this?
I know. And then, the nursery stakeholder popped up and they were like, we can give you this data. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I've got to build all of this in. But we built the model and it was pretty impressive. And it's capturing, which again was something different because it was obviously renewable material. It's capturing the carbon it was absorbing through its life cycle, as well as the emissions that were released during all the processes. So it was quite a challenge, but when I got it done, I was quite happy with the project, and I think it's been very helpful for the company that we did it for. So that's probably one of my biggest, successes through my career at the moment.
Is it early days yet, Charlotte? Early days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your worst job? Have you had any really awful jobs or any disasters or any... And if you haven't had any of those, any funny stories? Quite like the funny stories too. You've got any funny stories?
I suppose it's quite hard to say the worst thing. I definitely, when you're working with the packaging compliance and the figures, I think once I made a bit of a mistake with a pricing issue, which I was luckily solved and the producer was fine about, but that was probably the worst thing I've ever done. But in terms of funny, I am known around the office as the waste girls. We have like a gang of girls that go around, and we do a lot of waste audits on our own office bins. And we found some really interesting items in the office toilet bins, which we like to take photos of and shame everybody. Who's been eating chocolate biscuits on the toilet type of waste in bins, which has been quite funny. But no, that's it really at the moment. Hopefully no more worse things.
Yes, we always find a waste competition in ours. You always find something really dodgy or horrible or disgusting or funny or quite sad, actually. All these toys and things that could be given to other people and things like that. It's quite sad.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I was going to ask Charlotte if your opinions and habits changed out with the workplace, but I think you've already sort of described that you were already the bin police when you were a student, so you're still the bin police. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, and I think it's escalated now outside of my own house. So when I go to my parents, they've now got collections. A lot of my friends do the collections. I know my partner's dad, when you make the foil balls, so any foil that's below 40 millimetres in diameter obviously can't be recycled because it won't be captured. I think I told him once that, combining a ball of foil will mean that foil then will get captured. So every time I go to their house, he brings out this massive ball of foil, which I feel very proud that I've influenced. So yeah, I guess it's just continued.
So I suppose the question is, how do we get the public engaged a bit more? So my example of this recently is obviously I was on that BBC disclosures programme, and I was way across seeing my in-laws a couple of weeks back, and the sort of they've never really got this recycling bit, and they were like, our problem, we've not actually got a place to put the recycling that's handy. For goodness sake, you've been doing this for like 15 or 20 years. Get yourself a box at the back door or something if you've not got space in the kitchen. And it was almost like confessional time from them that we've not actually really been doing this. And I think there's a big chunk of the population that are in that space that they know they should, but they don't really. They need a bit of a nudge to get themselves, making that bit of effort to sort of segregate. And once they do it, they'll do it, sort of thing. How do we make that change? Because there's a big chunk of the population not doing it.
I think
it's a big question, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not sure I'd solely be able to answer, but I think it's convenience. I think we have to make it convenient. So whether that's design, so you say there wasn't a place for the recycling bin to go. Well, I think, I don't have this in my kitchen because I don't have a fancy kitchen, but kitchens have inbuilt bins. Okay, let's make enough compartments to collect different materials that we need to collect. So I think convenience is a really big one. Not having to take your rubbish to a separate place if it's just collected from curbside, that makes it easy peasy, doesn't it? But I think as well, just that education piece, that if they, like you say, they know why they need to do it, they know they need to do it, but do they know why they need to do it? Have they been to a landfill site? Have they been to a incineration site and seen? I think it is just like the shocking volume of waste that you see. And then you start to realise, oh my goodness, if that's just one day, how much of this are we generating in a year, in 20 years, And that, I think, has a bit of a shock value.
Yeah, because waste is like a river, Charlotte. It doesn't stop.
It never stops. It just keeps coming, doesn't it?
Exactly.
That's absolutely true, Jane. I don't know where you got that expression from.
I'm building them all in.
I'll need to put that in my LinkedIn profile, I think.
I'm building them all in.
It is interesting. I know the way I'm set up in my house, I find it so simple and so easy. It's not an extra thing, and I think I suppose that would be the shout out if there are people listening that are not doing it properly. Is just think how you do it. Think how you can make it easy for yourself. It's not that hard to have a box for your cardboard and your cans, and even just walk out to the bin and manually sort it, because it's not a vast amount of items every day. So it can be done, but I'm a firm believer that we need to get much better at that bit. We need to councils, Scottish Government, Zero Waste Scotland, all these people need to get much better at that education piece and engage with the public about it, because we're not, again, on a bit of a rant here, but if you look at some of the things going on down south with simpler recycling, there's so many headlines about, our refuse collection being cut. It's not been cut. They're probably getting extra services. They're just getting different bins on different days. and we need to be much stronger at pushing back at that and saying that you're getting the same service. You just need to help and put the stuff in the right bin.
Yeah,
and
just
it'll
off
work
with
for you.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, definitely we've seen a bit of a slower start, I think, to simpler recycling than, I don't know, we're expecting it to change overnight because that was never going to happen, but it's definitely been a slow start. I'm not sure how many, offices have additional food waste collections since when it came in. I haven't seen. We're still at Beyondly, we're on a leased premise. And we're still trying to fight for it, and it's just taken its time. And we've got the staff ready, so everyone knows that it's coming. And then when the bin comes in, we do need to put, our non-plastic tea bags in, all the food waste, that kind of stuff. Because I know in our waste analysis as well, that's at least 35% of the waste generated in the office is food waste. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. So I think it is just, there needs to be that support there in terms of curbside collection and that kind of stuff. But like you say, Alistair, it just needs to be that education piece of getting it out. I always laugh as well. So my housemates got into quite good with me being the law in the kitchen. Yeah. But then I'd go to the bathroom and I'd see all the toilet roll inners and all the shampoo bottles just in one bin, so then I started having to be like, gosh, do I need a recycling bin in the bathroom as well? Because I would take mine into the kitchen and put it in the recycling bin in the kitchen.
It in the right place.
Yeah. So it's just things like that, isn't it? That getting your head around, it can actually come from different areas of the home as well.
But I think certainly in Scotland, I think that's where we've let ourselves down, because we've got this sort of segregation for business. So we're all meant to do this business, and it's never been enforced. It's been in place since 2012. I keep banging on about this pub restaurant next door to me that puts out 6 or 8 residual bins and 2 recycling bins, and most of their stuff's recycling. Most of the stuff's probably food waste, and it's never been checked in terms of are they actually doing it right. And there's so many premises out there like that. So if they did it, the onus was on you to do it at the business as well as your household, I think that would drive the change a bit bigger. And I think, thinking about where I live, South Ayrshire Council, fair credit to them, what they've done is aligned all business, all schools, and the household collection all at the same service. So it's a consistent system across all these, your household, your business and trade and so on. So yeah, that sort of stuff, I think it makes it simpler for public.
Yeah, you would have thought that was kind of obvious, Alistair. But
you would think that's quite
you would
obvious.
Think that's obvious, but it's not.
But it's not. If you go to a lot of authorities, and what happens at household is totally different from what happens at commercial. And there's no reason. I know our own office, our residual waste is next to nothing. Most of our office waste is paper and card, and the odd drink can or water bottle. That's it. The actual waste we produce is tiny. Anyway, that's a bit of a rant from me. Sorry, Charlotte.
It's all right. We all have.
This is Alice's excuse to rant. To be fair,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's my weekly therapy, or my weekly therapy. Anyway, how do you relax and get away from work?
So I play a lot of squash, which I think I said in my CIWM Early Careers President interview is quite similar to the world of waste. It's quite male dominated. And I did chair my previous club in Leeds. I was the chairman, so it was quite an interesting experience. It's a bit of a dying sport as well. We don't have many new, fresh.
It's quite an old man sport to a certain extent.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah. No. So yeah, I play that a lot, and I have done since school. So it's a bit of a passion of mine. And then I do love the outdoors. So living in Glasgow now, I'm going up doing hill walks most weekends when I can, ticking off the Munros as well. So yeah, that's kind of.
How many have you done?
Not that many. I think I'm like 50 now, which, considering I only moved to Glasgow in November, it's
that's
not
too
bad.
bad.
That's quite good. I think I've done about 4. I've been in Scotland for 30 years.
I've decided I did quite a lot when I was young, but I've decided to start from scratch, and I'm trying to get. Well, I'm actually still trying to finish my Donald list first, which is, you know what Donalds are now?
They're not little hills.
So Donalds are hills over 2,000 feet below the southern fault line. So there's a couple, half a dozen, South Allowa, and then everything else is south. So the most trackless, barren hills that you can probably find. Most of them have not got a top. You spend half an hour trying to find the damn top, especially if it's Clagdon or cloudy. So I think I've got about 10 or 15 to do, but you've got to do, as well as doing the Donalds, you've got to do what is called the Donald tops as well. If you think the Donalds are bad, the Donald tops are even more remote and more discreet. So you've got to do all them. So I'm going to finish that first before I get onto my.
That sounds more of a chore than anything else, Alison, to be fair. Really?
It's actually quite... there we go. I'm at 79 out of 89 Donalds, but then I've got the Donald Tops to do, and I'm at 57 Monroes.
And don't tell me you're running all of those, probably, Alison, because I know how much you love your running.
I'm running, generally I'll do them running rather than walking, yes.
Can I ask a daft question, though? A Donald and a Donald Top, are they kind of like linked?
So you get
Donald, and then you find the top?
you get Monroe Tops as well. So there's a definition for it, Jane. Don't test me. I'll need to dig out the definition. So it's a linked top. So it's related to the bigger Monroe or the bigger Donald, but I can't remember it's a certain amount of elevation or something. But some of the Monroe Tops make sense to me. Some of the Donald Tops just don't make any sense at all. Okay. I missed one of the. I went out recently to try and do some Donalds and some Donald Tops, and I got to what was named as the hill on the West map. And it turns out that's not actually the Donald Top. The Donald Top is actually marked on the West map as a pile of stones.
All right, okay.
And it's like 200 metres further away. So I've got to trek in for about 8 miles or something to go and redo this Donald Top that I missed by, a few hundred metres.
That definitely sounds like a chore.
They're interesting. They're a challenge.
Can I go back to Charlotte's squash? Actually, I used to love squash when I was younger. I used to really love it. But the new game seems to be paddle. Have you played any paddle? Because that's kind of a bit not really squashy, but it's kind of a bit slower than squash, I think.
Yeah, I have played a bit of paddle. It's nice for the summer because you can do it outside. Whereas I always feel a bit, wasteful if I go into squash and it's like beautiful weather outside and I'm going into an indoor box
dark room.
to sweat. So that paddle has been nice to do a bit of outdoor racket sports, I guess. But it's a bit more social, I think. It's not quite as a workout as squash. It's quite... maybe I'm just not very good. But it's definitely one that you have a pint in between, I think, when I have played.
Well, I was going to say even better. I'm going down to Wimbledon next week, so to watch the tennis. So even
it'll be raining, Jane.
I'll have a few strawberries, cream, my pins and lemonade, sitting there watching, feeling not quite as energetic. Obviously.
You weren't meant to say that, Jane, because we're actually recording this one quite early, so this will be dated now because you mentioned Wimbledon.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Never mind. And you remember it. You remember at SSRC, which is club my son plays there.
Yes,
so I think we worked, last time I met you, I think we worked that one out, didn't we?
Yeah, I haven't played actually in a while. Since I moved up to Glasgow, I've just got out of the routine of, I used to have the certain people I'd play in Leeds, so I need to get back into it really, but summer's not back in time for the season when it starts in September, I'm sure. I've been told I'm captaining a team, which I'm not sure when I signed up for that.
So back to your sort of work-wise and stuff, and probably, I don't know whether this is kind of relevant for your CIWM role as well, is, what you're trying to achieve, what's next for you in your career, because you've really you're starting out. Where do you see yourself? What's your sort of ambitions?
Good question. So for my day job...
Big question, actually.
So for my day job at Beyond Lee, I'm really enjoying... We have a fund for change, which we do every year, which is 5% of our profit gets donated out to charities, projects, campaigns. And I've been part of some of those. So I was part of a Recoup one. We work with Preston City Council to do a pledge to recycle plastics campaign at the local authority. So I've really enjoyed being part of that. And we're also doing a e-waste project with RAP, which again is really, really interesting. And I'm finding those really enjoyable. So getting maybe more into the project side, in the impact things, maybe working with different organisations, not just businesses, has been quite fun. So I think maybe a bit more of that for me in my day job, which is good. And if anyone is listening that wants to apply, the applications I think are out for the Fund for Change. I think it closes at the end of August. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to drop me an email and maybe we can link it in the show notes great opportunity
definitely.
for some funding. And then with my CIWM hat on, I think, as we've discussed, waste isn't always a sector of choice. So I'm really passionate about raising its presence within that climate change crisis and how we're going to combat that. And we know that 55% of emissions are associated with our products that we use every day, you know, cars, food, all of that kind of stuff. So if we're going to meet net zero, we can't just simply tackle, you know, renewables and energy, because that's only going to be half of the problem. I think it's 55% renewables, 45% products. Sorry, got that the way around. But yeah, so I think I'm just super passionate about that, and that's through engagement with schools, universities, career fairs. We're going to try and get out as the early careers ambassadors, and give some guest lectures. We've done a few already, so we're really keen to do that with universities. So if any universities listening, please give us a shout out. I think, was it the last episode was with Louise from Sustainable Academies. We're hopefully going to support them. I know she's already doing a project with CIWM, but hopefully the early careers can get more involved with that.
Excellent.
So yeah, I think we're very quiet as an industry. We do our job, we make the waste disappear, but we actually are a massive part of this journey in combating climate change. So I think we really need to raise our profile in that. And then when people are saying, oh, I want to go into sustainability, you know, waste will sit in that group of jobs, or with, you know, because I think at the moment you just think, oh, sustainability, you know, energy, renewables, that kind of thing. And we get I get lost in that pile. And I've definitely spoken to people recently whose children were going through like career fairs and the tick list of what you're interested in or what sectors you're interested. And waste wasn't even really featuring anywhere on those. So it would be great if, like, in a couple of years' time, off the back of the early careers team and work with other groups as well, that would be something that people would start being able to say, oh, actually, you know, that sounds like quite cool. There's a lot of change going on there. It's maybe something we want to do. So that's really, as a CIWM focus, is something that we're really passionate about and we want to push forward. So, and I think most people I speak to feel the same way, that we just need to get more people into the sector, and it's going to grow, isn't it, inevitably, with the circular economy coming in. So, closer and closer towards the circular economy.
A lot of it's around terminology as well, isn't it? You know, you say waste and people have got that sort of image of what it is, whereas you kind of, if you say resources sector, people don't necessarily know what you mean by that. But exactly. You know, it's trying to make the terminology more
appealing, or
appealing, more buzzwords in there, you know.
Yeah, totally. People don't even know what the circular economy is when you mention it, and it's
no.
It's not something we learned at school, so of course you wouldn't, but you can't then advertise it as a circular economy sector, or, you know.
Yeah, because people don't understand what that is. So is there any facts you want to share about your job, or I mean, you've already shared quite a few, that 45-55%. That's quite a good fact. Is there any other facts that you might want to share that people might not know?
Yeah, so one is probably a common one that people know, but one that sticks in my mind always, and I like to say this to producers, is that 80% of a product's environmental impact is predetermined in the design phase. And so it just gets people thinking. And I think it's really important, what you've just said, Jane, is that we're the waste sector, but we are also the resource sector, and we need to work with people higher up that supply chain in the design phase to help reduce waste, you know, before it even is thought
in the
of
first
as waste. Yeah. So that's something that I like to say quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah, it's back to this thing that, yes, we can put the pressure on the public to do the right thing, but at the end of the day, it's not them producing the waste; it's the producers that are producing the waste. You know. And that's we've got to take that into account, haven't we?
Yeah, and usually when they're trying to do as much as they can sustainability wise anyway, because a lot of the time efficiencies, it saves cost. Yeah. So if we can support in both elements, it has a bit more of an impact. But yeah, you're so right, Alistair. It's like a two-pronged approach, isn't it? It's the community engagement and education, but also higher up that supply chain, working with producers to support as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned there Louise Robertson, who founder of Sustainables Academy. So she was episode 65. So I think it's quite amazing what she's trying to do. Actually, I think it's really good. And I know, you know, I think I mentioned when we last did the podcast with her, I know universities, colleges, they're all struggling as to how they build that sustainability messaging. That it's not just an add-on. It should be core to what they're doing, and I think they've all got that message. They know it is, but they don't actually often know what they're meant to deliver as that. So I think that the type of work she's doing is really, really good.
Definitely, and I think she said in that podcast that if you're embedding it like from early days, it's something that's then always going to stay with that person or that child as they move through, and whether they end up in our sector or not, they'll still have those thoughts and ideas that they learn and the importance of resources to then take into whatever role they do. So yeah, I think it's super important.
Good. Okay. So we always ask all our guests for their favourite piece of slang or dialect that you've learnt through the sector.
I think
must be some Glaswegian you picked up in a way.
I'm not sure.
I was going to say some Yorkshire. Yorkshire have got
There could be some Yorkshire
good range of slang words as well, I'm sure.
I think it was. This isn't really, it's more sector specific, but I was at a conference the other day, and rather than closed loop recycling, someone said continuous loop recycling, which I quite liked, in that it could be closed, it could be open, but we want to keep it going.
Yeah.
It's a bit boring, not a fun one.
That's fine.
That I've learned.
That's fine. And we're going to give you a magic wand to change one thing in the waste world. What would you like to use it for?
I saw this question before, and I was thinking about it in quite a lot of detail this morning on my drive down from Glasgow. And
it's how big do you go with this one, Charlotte? Really,
I know, and then I was
thinking,
if I did this one, then it would tie with this one. So I think for me, it would be wave that wand and decouple production and producing new goods with profit. So hopefully that would encourage things like repair, and we'd see more value in our existing goods that we have already than rather than producing new goods. If that's something that I'm not an economist, but hopefully that could work. I don't know. And it ties quite nicely into the new CIWM president, Dr. David Greenfield, and his presidential report that he's just released about the lost materials in our society. So I thought that was a nice link.
That would be a good one. We'll put the link. We put the link to that report. I've not actually read that report, but we'll put the link to that report on the show notes for this one, actually.
Yeah, maybe the summary one, because the main one I think is about 300
is it
pages
a bit too
long.
detailed? Is it?
Oh, right, yeah.
So it might be like the summary one, which is about 30 pages, I think, but it's really interesting. I actually sat on the group that supported with it, and we looked into 6 key materials that we have in the UK that are being lost. So yeah, definitely one to read.
Regular listeners to this podcast will know that myself and Jane are not particularly good at doing our homework, and we quite often mention reports and then promise to read them and then don't actually get back to reading them. Or occasionally we manage. So
we forget about them, don't we?
We'll certainly have a look. Certainly have a look. But we'll certainly share it if anybody else is interested. So there you go.
So I was quite interested, actually. I might actually read that one. And finally, this is your last question, Charlotte, and this is the biggest one, I think. What advice would you give to the younger generation coming into the sector? So you're obviously working that through with the CIWM, and what advice would you give them to say? Come on.
So, I think my advice is that we've kind of said this, that we are part of that environmental movement, and that if you want to work in the environmental sector, it comes in all different shapes and sizes. And to make an impact, you can be doing, all sorts of different jobs. Yeah. So I think that would be it. But then once you're in the sector, to have a shift in a mindset that we're part of a much larger system. I think it's very easy just to fall into that, like, we're the waste and resources sector. But we actually, the circular economy is every single element of society in a sense. So really shifting to that system thinking, and rather than the waste sector being that bucket at the end, getting involved up the supply chain to help and support with that. So I don't know if that's
that makes sense.
That's good. Because I think it's like, if you're a designer, for instance, think about designing in designing out waste, or designing in something that you can actually recycle or recover or reuse, and think about that at the design stage. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, modularity, durability, repairability, all those good key words
good
that
buzzwords.
We want to apply.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, when you're looking at design. So yeah, I think that would be it. But my own personal advice that's got me this far is just never say no. Like, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but there's so many opportunities, and everyone's so friendly within the waste sector, I find. Like, everyone you meet is so lovely, and building those contacts and those networks has made so many opportunities for me. So just jump at everything, I think. And even if it puts you out of your comfort zone, you're always going to be, your perspective is always worthwhile. Your expertise may always be slightly different to someone else that's there, or bring a different discussion to the group or whatever you're working on. So I think that's something that I think is, especially when you're in your early career section, that's something that's good to live by.
I think sometimes when you're in your early career as well, you're kind of like, I don't know enough, or, these older people know better than me. Whereas, like you say, everybody's got a different aspect that they're bringing, and and sometimes people who've just come in are asking the questions that you think, right, okay, but we've always done it that way.
Yeah, and that's partly the reason why the CIWM brought in the early careers team as well. For internally within their groups, we've got people that now sit on the strategic expert groups, or I think it's the SEGs anyway. We've got people sitting on the SEGs, the Policy and Innovation Forum, within the member forum. So it's like we've always got that fresh voice that I think, like you say, Jane, it's just we can ask, like, oh, is there a reason why we do that way? Or could we not maybe use this technology to help with that? Or, it's just that fresh insight, which is always really helpful. So, I think don't think your perspective or your opinion or your technical knowledge isn't worth what everybody else in the room knows.
Yeah, totally. No, I would agree with that as well.
How does the CIWM talk to the wider sector a bit better, though? That I always feel that as a sector, and it's not just CIWM, it's other organisations, we're very good at talking to each other in the sector, but many of our problems that we've got in the sector are not actually our problems, they're caused by other people. How do we raise the game there in terms of communicating to other sectors a bit better?
I know that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes at HQ with other member bodies, definitely, and we've learned a lot. I know that my role as an early careers president came from another institute, so there's a lot of discussions like that. But I think as well, the acquisition of the Circular Economy Institute, which now sits within that CIWM family as well, that brings in a whole different perspective of people. So you've got your true wasters, which I don't even know if I fit into that true waster category. I'm not out on site.
There's wasters and there's wasters.
Exactly.
There's various levels there, Charlotte.
Exactly. I'm not a hardcore waster. I kind of sit in that middle ground. But then you've also got these new circular economy professionals that have completely different perspectives and probably have dealt with water and have dealt with transport and have dealt with green spaces, which again all ties in. So I think that's another thing, and I'm excited to see how the two sort of progress forwards and unify, and how we can work together and bring the different perspectives from each of the two organisations. I mean, we're under one body now, but the two perspectives in. So I think, hopefully that will also help with that. But I think there is a lot we can learn from other industries as well. That collaboration is just what we really need to take us forward, isn't it?
And sort of final question. I know Jane said it was final question ages ago. You've got how long left to run? You've got another for your presidency?
Another year, so it's to June 2026.
And then is there an election for your replacement, or is the replacement already selected?
No, so there'll be another election process, I guess, another interview process. And I think the ambassador group as well, which sit in the team, there's 11 of those, but I think the tenure is 3 years, so there'll be a reshuffle of those roles as well. So it's definitely a massive opportunity, so keep your eyes peeled when that does come
I think myself and Jane are slightly too old for that. I think
any of the listeners that have
absolutely. No, I totally agree. Jane's been involved with CIWM for years, and so have I. And as a network, building up a network is amazing. But you do need to get out there and engage and do the bit. And if you are starting your career, getting involved at that early stage will really help your network. And yes, there's a bit of work. Yes, there's a bit of putting yourself out of comfort zone, but you will reap the benefits from it, I would suggest.
100%. And also, it's like the networking, but the knowledge and the webinars and things that you get as well. There's always articles and reports and, podcasts that have helped me as well, that I've sort of heard of a contact or, learnt something new that then I've been able to bring to a project. So, I'm like a big advocate for the membership.
I think also it's one of those things where somebody asks you something, can you do this? And I say, no, but I know somebody who can.
Exactly.
And it's that sort of networking thing as well.
Yeah. I'd just like to add as well that EPR RAM, it's classification, collection, sortation, reprocessing and application. It wasn't in the mind when we had that discussion, but it is now. It's come back to me.
It wasn't, in fairness to you, it was certainly not in your question set that we provided before. So
no.
Fair play to you. I know how the mind goes blank with these things. So, well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I knew it'd be
Charlotte.
fascinating. So, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for your time, and you're so enthusiastic about it all as well, and that really helps.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or drop me an email or anything, and I'd love to help.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.